Hello, sisters. All right, so we finished the book. I'm going to do, I think, on Monday. Well, it needs to be sooner rather than later, but I don't want it to be like the thing I do tomorrow because I just want to start doing that concealing propaganda stuff. But in the next couple of days, I definitely will do like a kind of review. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it. If I'm gonna give myself like 5 minutes per essay to kind of just be like, this is what the essay is about. This is what I thought of it, and like in terms of the whole book, I would rate it as like one of my favorite essays or one of my least favorite essays or something like that. Something kind of basic to just kind of be like an overview. Yeah. So this essay I think was the most inspiring essay to me in the whole book. I wasn't quite sure what to think of it cuz the title is not very like I don't know. I thought I would find it kind of hokey and silly, but actually really liked this essay. Hey, Tossstones. Mama, where are you, baby? Here. Where's your mouse? Your mouse. Don't be like this is your favorite mouse. Take here. I'll give it to you. There you go. Okay. All right. Yeah, this I think was my favorite essay in the book, honestly. I was kind of like, that's a kind of strange essay to end the book on when I just read the title, but no, I've totally fucking into it. Um, yeah, Maple says it's kind of amazing that some of these essays can be actually fantastic when others are so horrible. Very true. Okay, also, who is Starhawk? I don't know who this is. Okay, actually, first thing I want to do is look up who this author is, because let's read the thing in the back of the book before I look her up. I feel like she probably has some books that she's published. Okay. Okay. Francine Lea Rainone is a former professor of philosophy and women's studies. She left academia to study Oriental Medicine and has trained in Boston and Nanjing, People's Republic of China. She currently practices acupuncture and craniosacral therapy in the Boston area. She has written articles about sex roles and the role of the body in sexual power. Okay, so she's mostly written articles, I guess. Starko was a feminist witch. Oh, cool. Okay, so when I googled her name, like the second thing that came up was like the video we just did. um and then I think there's someone else with the same name as her who's currently working in like geriatric and palliative care because a bunch of articles by her came up. But there's a couple of like feminist quarterlies or journals or something that have stuff by her that are on like that are PDFs somewhere that you can click on. So if you want to read more by this author, which I do, I think you can just Google her and you'll find like free PDFs of stuff that she's contributed to. Look up the Spiral Dance, Benji. Okay, is that the one by Starhawk? Is Starhawk like her given name, or she like changed it because she's a hippie? Oh, it's about goddess worship and stuff. That's interesting. Okay, Momo, I'm here. Show your butt. All right. Yeah, this was like really inspiring to me. I really liked this essay. Let me talk generally about some stuff I liked about the essay. I liked how she had both like I mean, I think it's because she's a professor, probably. She explained like abstract concepts and then she like rooted them in like very grounded practical stuff, which I love that. Reminded me a lot of reading my Marilyn Fry, probably because they read a lot of philosophy. They have like they're very articulate, basically. Something else I liked, which is like not really a way to rate essays, but because I'm doing it in this format, I would do. Um, uh, just the way she writes is really easy to read and really easy to comprehend. Like even Marilyn Fry even has like these fucking ridiculous long ass phrases that never end. But the way that she like structures the phrases makes it really, really easy to understand and follow along and very comfortable to read out loud. I liked that. Um, I like how she talked about spirituality. She does mention Buddhism one time. She talks about spirituality without ever mentioning like organized religion. She mentions this Starhawk, who I guess is like a reference to like female goddess focused spirituality, but she never even gets into like your spirituality could be like patriarchal or like feminist or like this is what's good and this is what's bad. She never gets into like lists or like it's very like personal centric rather than like collective, like her analysis of spirituality, which I thought was like really refreshing and interesting. I don't know much about spirituality. I do wish she would have defined spirituality in her terms at some point in the essay, and I don't think she did, even vaguely. 'Cause I was kind of like, "What exactly does she mean?" Because some of the stuff she was explaining, like ritual, I'm sure like lots of like women's collectives or lesbian collectives have rituals built in. Does that signify that they are practicing a kind of collective spirituality or individual spirituality? Um, yeah, it was interesting. More approachable than Z Budapest. Oh, okay. Momo, it's cold. You're gonna come inside. Ugh, she's just glaring at me. Let me get my robe. I'm cold. All right. So this essay, because it's very short and because I fucking love the way the author spoke so much, I'm gonna actually go through it like page by page, like I used to do in the beginning of the book. I think that basically stopped after that 40-page essay that I was like, I'm dying. Also, okay, guys. So the next like thing we're doing is these cotton sealing propaganda videos. Um, and after that, I think what we will be doing, like we're eventually gonna get to lesbian ethics, but I feel like let's mix it up a bit. Um, the next thing we're gonna be doing after that is these Calgary women's newspapers. I don't think I'm gonna do all of them. I think I'm gonna just pick some random ones, and I already like designed the thumbnail and stuff. I'm just not sure like when I guess I'm gonna intersperse these and the concealing propaganda stuff. Um, but these videos, obviously, or to me it seems obvious. I'm not going to just like do a whole video reading the article or reading the newspaper and then do a second video discussing it. It's gonna be like all in one video, right? Yeah, thanks, Aqua. But I'm thinking, so one of my fans is an audiobook editor, and I was talking to her because I was like, "Look, this is like your profession. What do you think of the way I do my videos, like in terms of like the readings and the whatever?" So she gave me some like tips on the actual reading, like out loud. But then she also was like, um, like as a YouTuber, you should consider uh like how you do your videos, because what the women really come for is the discussion, not the reading, so you should do it all in one video. And these are the reasons that I stopped. I did that in the Eating Fire, right? And I did that in my very first book that I did on here, which I only did like the last 10 chapters of that book because I started it on like a different app that doesn't record. Um, but the reason that after Marilyn Fry, well, the reason that when I did Marilyn Fry, I started doing it like one video reading and one video analysis was a few different reasons. One, I wanted to create like audiobooks to make it accessible. Because I can imagine somebody who doesn't agree with me on much, or doesn't want to hear my opinions, or whatever, or finds it annoying that I'm constantly engaging in the live chat, something like that, where I'm like, I still want you to be able to read this book or listen to this book, right? But another reason I do it that way is because I found especially in like the Eating Fire, I found that I will get like bogged down. Like I'll read like one page and I'll get bogged down in like analyzing like one page what's happening. And through that, I think I lose like I'm not seeing the forest for the trees, basically. And I think to like read the essay start to finish or read the chapter start to finish and then analyze it after, I get like the small stuff and the big stuff all at once, and then I can analyze it all at once. Um that's kind of my thinking around it. But I also think maybe that's just because I need to build the skill of analyzing while reading. Um So yeah, I'm not quite sure. Basically what I'm asking you guys is the cotton sealing propaganda videos and the newspaper videos are going to be like a read and analyze at the same time. But do you want me to do my future videos that way, or do you like it when I have like the reading and then the analysis separately? Because I kind of like doing it separately, but I also recognize that like for a lot of women, I mean, you look at the viewer numbers. A lot of women come only to the discussion and not the reading, which is like that's fine. But I'm like, would you guys prefer it if I didn't do it that way? So like you tell me basically. Like I'm not gonna just do what you tell me to do, but I want to know your opinion. Okay. Okay. You guys like it. But I guess I'm asking the wrong people because since you guys are here, you must like it. Yeah. Like I'm sure I'll alternate based on what I'm reading. Like again, if I'm reading something published in the last couple years, I will definitely do the analysis and the video. I mean, and the reading at the same time, just for copyright reasons. Um, but I was just wondering what you guys thought because when this woman brought it up to me, I was like, that's like a good point. I wonder what you guys think. I also love the reading. I mean, it almost feels meditative to me. Um, like I know my like skills, like of verbalizing what I'm reading are not spectacular. They've definitely gotten better, but when I compare them to like actual audiobooks, I'm like, this is like very amateur. They've gotten better, but it's like almost meditative to me. It's like very peaceful, just like reading it, just processing it, just like seeing you guys chilling out in the live chat and knowing like you guys obviously pay attention because in the next thing you have opinions and stuff. So I like it the way we do it, but I just wanted to open up the possibility of doing it a different way to you guys. All right. Okay. Momo, come inside. Contrarian. Yeah, Tossstone says I find I lose my train of thought, so 2 is good. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna keep doing it this way. Like I've said before, the purpose of my channel is not to like um get like 1 bajillion followers or like every freaking woman to watch my videos. It's just to, like do it the way I want to do it, and if you find it useful, then you find it useful. So aw, thanks, a bird killed me. Yeah, that's I tried to watch one of my Marilyn Fry videos, like, last week, and I was, like, cringing. I was like, "Oh my god," like, the reading is so bad, like, compared to now. I can't believe how much I've improved in, like, 3 months. Well, I mean, I can. If you spend that many hours doing something, it'd be kind of pathetic if you didn't improve. Um but that's why I'm definitely going to redo the Marilyn Fry, maybe, like, in the new year, maybe, like, January 2023. I'm definitely gonna redo it because I feel like I didn't do the book justice at all, and I also feel like as we go through these types of books, And as we read the other, like I want to read other philosophy, like the Julia Penelope and Sarah Hoagland. As we read other lesbian philosophy, I will have like a different interpretation of what Marilyn Fry is talking about. So I'm like, very excited to reread those and to do a much better job in the audiobook. Um, have we been at Benji University 3 months already? Time flies. Yeah. Although I wasn't doing the readings in the beginning of January. I think I started the readings like the end of January. So maybe it's like February, March, April. Oh my god, April's almost over. Yeah, so like 3 months. Yeah. All right. Honestly, Dragon says I feel like we're all getting a feminist course no one else can access. That's why also like all my videos are up for free and they're staying up. Um I might cut out some stuff that I think might get my channel taken down or could potentially spread to things in my real life. But I try to just be careful and avoid that to begin with, so I don't need to like edit my videos or take them down or anything. But no, that's kind of why I'm doing this cuz like okay, so Jane Claire Jones has like her feminist university online or whatever, but there's like a wait list for that and it's not like the way they've structured it is basically that like if you are like a working woman or like a mother or something, you can like partake. It's not like too much of a commitment for you. But honestly, for me, it feels like quite a bit of a commitment that like doesn't really fit with my lifestyle or like my motivated like the way my motivation works. That was kind of my issue with school was like my motivation is like very sporadic. So like right now I'm really motivated to read books. So like I'm just gonna freaking do it on YouTube, you know? Anyway, so Jane Claire Jones has her thing, and then there's like a book club that's run by some there's like at least 2 or 3 book clubs that are run by like academics or like long-term feminists that you can join. But like literally there's one that's Canadian and like every single weekend, like one weekend it was like, okay, I'm moving this weekend. No, it wasn't. Oh yeah, it was like the only day after COVID that I had to drive from one city to another. Then the next weekend it was like I don't know, it's just like every single time they did it, there was like some like really thing that I couldn't move that I had to do that day. So I've missed all of them even though I've been signed up for 8 months. So I was like, "You know what? Just gonna read my own freaking books online." And for years when I talk to women about books, they're like, "You should start a book club." And I'm like, "But nobody will like read the books." Like I did have a book club on Goodreads for like a week. And I was like, "This is not this is not it, basically. Like this is not how people work in the modern era, like, to just, you know, I feel like something interactive is way better. Yeah. Even if you get a copyright strike, it's highly unlikely they will take down your entire channel down. No, I know, but, uh, it's just that I want the videos to stay up to be accessible, like, the whole reason I'm doing it is to make the stuff more accessible, so if they get taken down, it's like I really feel like the value of this is, like, in real time, like what we're doing right now, less than after, but I do think it's like, you know, maybe someone comes to radical feminism like in 6 months and they're like, "OMG, she has all these essays or whatever." Maybe that'll be helpful to them. So like, yeah. um don't be sorry for being late, Lita. Every woman has her own life. Izzy says I was watching a Marilyn Fry essay stream by you on my TV while my girlfriend was asleep next to it and she woke up and looked at me and said, "Are you trying to brainwash me?" Yes, lesbian separatism is the way. Okay, let's go through the essay. I'm gonna try to actually ignore you guys and focus on the essay. I know I haven't done that in weeks, but let's try. All right. Like it's gotten to the point, like now we're at the end of the book, so I can reassess. But it's gotten to the point where I almost feel like the like the discussions of the essays is like disingenuous because like there's literally been several of the discussions where it's 99% me interacting with the live chat and I'm just like, oh yeah, the essay was good. Put up the AW napkins, lol. Um, None of these have logos on them. Oh no, wait. This is an A&W napkin. I keep like, I'm so weird. Like, you know your keyboard, how it hurts your wrist? Instead of getting like a towel or like one of those gel things, I just keep like a bunch of napkins there to like put on my wrist on. Okay. No, I like to hang out with you guys too, but then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't like name the stream a discussion of the essay when it's not going to be a discussion. Like, I just need to be more disciplined, I think. Um, or honest or something. Okay, let's go through the thing. So, kind of similar to some of the other essays in the book, she starts off by being like, this is my upbringing. Like, my early childhood was like in the Italian American community. These are like the stereotypes that I consumed and internalized and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of similar to the Latina women and the Black women, or the other in earlier in the book, who described their essays starting off with like their childhood and how their culture affected their self perception. So she brings up at the on the first page, what is a community? Once we get clear about what communities are, I think we'll see that developing lesbian communities would undermine the strength of our feminist politics. If, as lesbians, we hope to renew our commitment to social change and replenish our energies for the long struggle that lies before us, it isn't communities we need, but rather the conscious addition of spiritual dimension to our politics. So it's interesting because when she talks about community, she talks about how there is like, it's like self-regulating, you all have like shared values and like all trying to do the same work. And so there's like a lot of unifying factors to community. And she basically views this as limiting, as far as I understood the essay. But spirituality, she views it as unifying, but in a positive way, because she views it as like, she views spirituality as both personal, internal growth and sense of self, and through that, a renewed connection to the women around you. And I think what she's kind of getting at from the way I read it is that community creates like a synthetic or forced or controlled connection that's only external. And so because it's like, that's why I use the word synthetic, because if it's like only external and there's nothing coming from the internal, like how solid is that? And as she mentions many times, how sustainable is that? Um and I am totally there with that. Like, I've talked to many lesbians who feel I can't go to lesbian events. I can't I don't feel comfortable hanging out in groups of lesbians. Why? Because they feel based on like what she describes as like the community, because they feel based on the community, they don't fit in enough, they don't have a right to be there. Or that if they do go there because they're lesbian and they should be in this lesbian thing, that the commonalities of the other women that they don't share will become a source of, what's the term she uses? Policing. And so they have a very realistic and tangible analysis of the situation, what she brings up here. When I talk to these lesbians who are like, I don't want to go to lesbian stuff because I feel that I don't belong there or I'm not good enough to be there or something, I am like, what I will often say to them is, you need to build your own confidence and sense of self individually. What you're trying to do, I think a lot of women, what you're trying to do is go to a lesbian thing, be affirmed in your identity, and through that affirmation, from the external, internalize it. I don't think that's healthy, no matter which group you're doing it with. Like, on a fundamental primary level, to start that way at least. I think what you need to do is build your own sense of self, build your own self-confidence in your identity or your sexuality or whatever. And then from there, from your strong sense of self, then you interact with the other women. And you kind of see like the interplay. What do you get out of it? Things to challenge you, things to consider, blah blah blah. I think if you do it the other way around, can be very harmful. Now, this is not to say that I don't think the concept of like seeing real life lesbians in the flesh is like very, very affirming and comforting and great. I totally am into that. But I think if it's kind of like a relationship, if you expect to go into a relationship with like tons of self hatred and self doubt and just be like, well, this person loves me, so all my self hatred and self doubt will go away because I'm going to internalize what she thinks about me, that is like pretty unrealistic. And I think a lot of lesbians, they treat like lesbian community as that. Like in the one of the past essays, one of the women brought up the concept of lesbian community as a myth. That it's like mythologized or romanticized to like a really crazy extent. That basically when you're gonna get there, you're gonna have a religious experience of being like fulfilled and actualized, and then everything will be great. Um so yeah, I don't know. This essay was so inspiring. It made me think so much. I love this essay. Okay, let's keep going. Um so yeah, let me read this part here. People use the term lesbian community without a clear sense of what they're talking about. This is what I mean like with the mythologizing or the romanticizing. It is one of the many unexamined and misunderstood concepts of our communal vocabulary. And all unexamined concepts are misunderstood that are misunderstood lead to confusion, misdirected energies, and pain. Oh yeah. Um Personal person is bringing up community. I mean family. I left the last live chat up so I can look through it. Okay. Some of you had some cool stuff to say. A possible person was like quote unquote communities. She said it, yeah. I think it's like my criticism of the postmodern essays. A lot of the times they use the word lesbian to mean a lot of different things, or they use the word political to mean a lot of different things. And it's like within one paragraph or even one phrase, you will have the same word meaning two different things. I think community is like that, um, in this book at least. So when she like quote unquotes it, I think she's like pointing that out, like yeah. And also when I saw that for some reason, out of my peripheral vision, I thought the way it says communities in all caps, I thought Komutashiya was here. And I like dapped. And then Komutashiya was not here, and I was like, oh, like I can't undo that now. Okay. Okay, here, Apostle Person says some stuff. Maybe it's my modern perspective, but I really disagree with that statement. I don't know which statement. I think the benefit of in person communities is that you are forced to deal with people who are different from you. Mm. Like the only thing that you would have in common is that you are lesbians and leave a good lot of room for difference. And that's a good thing. Yeah, I agree. It was brought up in one of the previous essays on community. Oh, this is the thing I was looking for. Okay. Apostle Person says, I've come to really appreciate my family over the years, not because of our relationships are so fractious, but because of it. We are quote unquote forced to be together and bonds are more secure because of it. I can rely on them. Almost all of us have become difficult person at some point in our lives, and when people dip out the moment you become irritating, that's a serious problem. hmm Maple says too many people will give up on someone over minor annoyances. This is like very nuanced though within lesbian community and feminist community because as I mentioned before, there are like women who are extremely volatile, um, who, they'll join an established group, and within months of them joining the established group, the entire group dies because they're that volatile. There are a bunch of these women running around in feminist and lesbian circles. And so to me, in my experience of like community building or whatever you'd like to call it, um, becoming aware of these women and how to, I wouldn't even say mediate because that's beyond me, and how to avoid the conflicts, and de-escalate the conflicts has been like that's been like the major thing I've been focused on the last couple years because this kind of stuff is like a big deal. Um, what was I saying though? Right. So we need to be nuanced about it. Where is the line between I disagree with this woman is obnoxious, this woman is annoying, whatever. I don't see eye to eye with her on some fundamental stuff. And this woman is like a major problem who like I also think anybody who's watching me who knows me probably thinks I'm talking about one woman. I'm not talking about her actually. I'm talking about other women from like online stuff mostly. Um yeah, there needs to be a line between like and it's so complicated because drawing that line can very easily lead to like for the good of the group anything is worth it. Like right? Like so imagine the volatile woman who's causing trouble is in like a an emotionally vulnerable situation and you're saying, you know, we need to sever ties with her. So it's like, are you now in a position of any harm to this woman or this group of women is worth it because the group? Or is it like the collective goal is so important that any negative impact it has on the group is worth it? Like there needs to be there's so many like things to balance out. Um I took it as a dab of agreement. I should just do that now when I'm reading and I see something that I agree with, just dab at you guys. Um, Possible Person says, I think it's policing in the same way family can be policing. The point of tight knit groups is that they can withstand that sort of difference and conflict. Yeah, so she brings that up, right? She brings up this like thing where her dad stopped talking to her uncle, and eventually, like the women in the family were like, you know what, this is over. You're gonna have dinner and shake hands, and that's it. And she's like, why is it like that? Because it's seen that like blood ties and kinship is like um unrevocable or whatever. So obviously, lesbian community, and especially if it's not based on geography, I think if it's based on geography, you're a little more forced in this way because it's like these are the lesbians in your city. You're going to be around them or the women who know them forever, right? But like lesbian community doesn't have that. This kind of like I don't even know self regulation is not the right word. Something similar to self regulation, where like there is no unconditional aspect to lesbian community because the only thing you have in common is being lesbians. Yeah. And this plays a major role in like the potentiality of longevity. Lita says, I feel like the volatility is far worse online, but I could be wrong. I don't think it's so much that it's more volatile online. I think it just gets like memeified. Much like the way it spreads online makes it look really, really bad. But there's women doing the same shit in real life that also has like the same effect. Um, Paul's person has another great comment here. Right, when someone rolls into your life like a hurricane, that's a problem. My train of thought is around people who you like, but then go through a bad patch when they're angry or whatever. Or like your uncle who's racist, who you only see twice a year. Is it really worth avoiding gatherings of your extended family because of an asshole? Because an asshole is there? Yeah, exactly. Um, but to me, this is what's very, very difficult because I've been in like group settings where there's one or two women who are very, very volatile, and everyone's instinct, like almost 100% of the time, everyone's instinct is, you know, we need to have compassion. We need to give this woman another chance. Like, you know, she's going through like a rough patch. She's going through she's processing some feelings on some stuff, like whatever. Like, we need to give her chances. But it's like, where do you draw the line between like this, like the good of the group and like the good of the individuals, you know? Yeah. Oh, hello. Um, I don't know if it's like I just think it's different. I think you can like in-person relationships can evolve to volatility and like rage in a very different way. Momo, this is not your water, it's mine. Momo, that's human food. Don't eat that. What are you doing? All right. Like, I think in person interpersonal conflicts can have a much deeper individual impact, while online interpersonal conflicts can have a much more wide reaching but not as deep impact. Okay, let's get back to the essay. We're only on page 2. And it's been 36 minutes. All right. She also brings up reciprocal obligations. So mutual support and reciprocal obligations. I think that's something that's definitely missing, especially in current times when it comes to so most lesbian stuff that I've been to in person is literally just women being like, I'm a TERF. I don't know any other TERF lesbians and I don't want to feel alone. So, based on this essay, what she's saying is that that is not conducive to longevity of a group. Fair enough, makes sense, right? Because what you're trying to get, I think, is like a short-term thing. You're not going to feel alone 10 years after you've met the women who are just like you, right? So then your motivation for being there will change or disappear. But the reciprocal obligation, that is the kind of thing that, like I've talked about this before, is based on necessity. Like in the 60s, if you were outed as a lesbian, you'd probably lean pretty hard on the other lesbians you know, because it would have like a huge impact on your life, right? Whereas like now, if you're outed even as a TERF, there's probably some family you can turn to if you get fired or something, right? And so this reciprocal obligation, I don't feel like in the current era a lot of lesbians feel that towards each other. Like that you not only need to like emotionally be friendly with each other so that you don't feel alone, but also to like materially support each other when nobody else will, or materially support each other just because you would expect that to happen for you, so you're going to do it for other women. Um I think that like an obligation to me that implies a sense of commitment. And I don't think a lot of women, when they join groups or organizations or even like social groups, I don't think they're thinking of it in terms of like a long-term commitment. Um, yeah. Moo. Yeah. Well, that's what I was talking about. So in the last essay, my analysis of the last essay, remember how I mentioned like if you start a group as one person and you just add women, that like you don't really have, I guess the word to use is like a culture, like a unifying culture, because you're just adding anyone who has the one characteristic. Whereas if you start a group with, as she terms it, an enclave, there's like 5 women who are all friends with each other, who have very similar values, not only political but like generally, like because you're some of you are pointing out like politics and sexuality is not, it takes more than that to build like long-term deep connections. So if you start off with, as she terms it, an enclave, and you have similarities or a culture that has more in common than just politics and sexuality, and you're selective about who you add, then you can like grow the initial connection and trust between the enclave to extend to more women because you're looking for stuff you have in common other than just politics and sexuality. And again, this you have to be very careful about it because it's like this is obviously like something that can go really out of control quite quickly if you're not careful with it. Um, oh yeah, with the online stuff, like I can't control who I am supposed to and not supposed to follow, and who's deciding that. Everybody has a different opinion about that, so that's like literally fucking impossible to do. And then I also literally impossible to do is keep track of who's fighting with who and who likes who and who had drama with who. Like it's literally impossible to keep track of these things. Yeah. Like political purity in online actions or whatever how you would term it is like literally fucking impossible. And anybody expecting that of you, I think is either like really naive or like really new and reactionary. Um yeah. Like, it's, like, literally fucking impossible, and also, that is, like, a high control group tactic, telling you who you should and shouldn't associate with, and judging you based on who you do and don't associate with, like, there's a difference between, like, "Oh, this feminist got into a fight with this other feminist, but I still follow her on Twitter," versus being like, "Oh, yeah, this is my brother who's convicted of sexual assault, and he's the best ever." Like, my judgment based on your association of those 2 people is completely radically different, right? And I think women really take it to the edge. Like Todd Stones is saying, we live in a time where rage is so easily induced, such uncertainty and pressure on us as women. Yeah, like yes, exactly. Yeah. All right. So she mentions these 2 types of group that she views as having better longevity and like deeper connection basically are self-help organizations and like political work organizations. This to me makes sense because if you're going to like a lesbian social group, or as was mentioned in the last analysis, if you're going to a political group just to meet lesbians, your motivation for being there is short term. If your motivation for being there is like she mentions like eating Overeaters Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, like for lesbians, this is like an ongoing issue in your life that's going to last for a long time. So your commitment to this group is long term. And when you have a long or like political work, if you are like very passionate about politics, you're not just going to stop after a year and be like, okay, I'm done, right? So generally, so if you like for if you are in a political group who's doing actions, you have a vested interest not only because your motivation is long term, but also because your connection to the other women is long term. Like, if you joined like, Overeaters Anonymous that was like a lesbian chapter and you went in on the first day and started dissing all the other lesbians, you're not going to do that because you know that you're going to need this group for like a long amount of time. So not only is your motivation for going to the group um long term, but also your connection with the other women. You want to build positive connections with the other women so that in the long term you are supporting each other, right? Um then she mentions her Society for Women in Philosophy, just so fucking cool. I wish I could find like a list of who was in this group cuz probably a bunch of radical feminists, right? Um but so that she's like, look, we came here to do work together, the work of supporting each other in our academic fields or professional development or something. So, when a younger woman in the group is trying to get a job, the older, more established academics will write letters of recommendation for her or review her articles or whatever. to help her build professionally. And so it's like a collective, we're all supporting each other. You have a long-term vested interest in doing that. Yeah. Thought that was really interesting. I don't know though, Dragon. Dragon says, and taking sides based on what is said on the internet, none of us really knows these people. How am I supposed to take one side over the other? So I'm sticking to what matters, me ending gender ideology. What matters to me, ending gender ideology. Okay, but this to me is again, it's like the line between like where's the collective important and the individual important. Like there are several women YouTubers who have come out and said like over like some of the most racist shit I've ever seen in my life. Like really, really racist. Like there's no like, oh, they were just like having no, like super, super racist, like extremely fucking racist. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know this woman. But is the fact that she's fighting gender ideology enough that I should ignore what's going on? Like, it's really difficult and nuanced where you draw the line. I'm not trying to say that you support these women dragons specifically, but I'm just saying like I have seen people take that principle of well, you can't criticize these people because gender ideology is like the big problem. We need to stay focused. Like Stella O'Malley in that on Joy Bright's channel, she has that AGP discussion is the title of the video. In that one, a bunch of people are bringing up like a specific person who is engaged in like some very problematic behaviors. And again, this is someone who's just online. We don't really know who this person is. But a bunch of women had very real concerns about this person. Stella O'Malley kept bringing it back exactly to that. She'd be like, why are we talking about this? What I'm trying to do is stop kids from transitioning, so we can't talk about this. So to me, the concept that we need to like keep our eye on the ball is good. But I think we need to be very careful about how we actually implement that. Because what I often see that turning into is nobody should have any personal accountability because the only thing that matters is the end goal and nothing else. And to me, that's like extremely fucking detrimental because how are you going to get to the end goal when the behavior of some of the people in the group who are working on that um, are scaring away anybody else who's going to do the work. That's the thing too. It's like I'm always thinking about longevity. I'm like, your work is not going to get done because 10 people joined your group in 1990. Your work is going to get done because as women age out or move or whatever, other women are joining the group to get the thing done. So if you're like the ends justify the means, that's not a recipe for longevity in whatever you're trying to do. Um, oh, you're talking more about personal beefs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah. Um, there's like 3 super, super, super racist YouTubers that everybody fucking supports, and I'm not going to name them because they're very popular and I don't want to get fucked over. Um, but it's pretty fucking disturbing to me how, like, there has been all kinds of exposés on these women, and then they continuously associate with all these other rad femmes and or women who call themselves rad femmes, honestly, because there's, like, barely any real rad femmes on Twitter on YouTube. There's, like, 5 of us. Alright. Let's move on. So but the concept of SWIP. The concept of SWIP was that like we are all in the same profession, and because we're a minority, because we're lesbians, or no, they're just women, I think. Yeah, just women. Hey, corner. Um, because we're a minority, because we're women in this very, very male-dominated field, we're going to support each other. It's been interesting in recent years. There's a lot of stuff like that going on, but not in terms of lesbian, in terms of like gender critical, something along those lines. You know what I'm trying to say. There's midwife groups, there's nurses groups, there's academics of one country groups, there's doctors of one country groups who are like professionally, materially, in a committed long-term way supporting each other. And those are the kind of things that are going to last a pretty long time, and those are the kind of things that are based on politics. So I totally see what she's saying, and I totally agree with her. I'm so glad I read this essay. Like, the way it made me think about things was so freaking instructive. I loved it. Okay. So she says a lot of the times what people call lesbian community is actually just a couple different lesbian friendship networks that all hang out together. And like that's good and that's nice and whatever, but is that a recipe for longevity and for support of like lesbians at large. Um, so she brings up the concept of an enclave, and I think she's basically trying to say we need to be conscientious of like what is community, what is an enclave, and what are the actual real outcomes from being in a community or the existence of a community and being in an enclave and the existence of an enclave. Um, yeah. So she also brings up that so we have to assume this is mostly like her experience from the 70s. Um, is this an enclave? Yeah, I think so, Maple. um, maybe I should call you guys the enclave of male removers or whatever. We should come up with a name for my fans, like for fun. Like somebody was like Benjamites or something, and I was like, that's not good. That sounds bad. The enclave of lesbian or like I don't know, something. Okay. Um what was I saying? Oh yeah. So she brings up like an issue of resources and power. So she says a lot of the lesbian groups and communities that she knew of in the Boston Cambridge area throughout the 70s, I assume she doesn't give a time period, um, is one of their goals was to replace patriarchal institutions with female centered or lesbian centered institutions. And hey Hannah. And she basically is like, that's not practical. There's not enough lesbians. We don't have enough wealth. We don't have enough time. We don't have that much energy. It's impractical for us to spend all of our energies on trying to recreate every patriarchal institution in a female centered way. Um, Benji's batterers of men. um, oh my god, Dragon who? Text me. Like I don't really keep track of a lot of most of it. Like I tell you guys, when I watch stuff on YouTube, I like literally don't watch anything feminist. Actually, there's this Rebelle du Genre, which is like some French feminists. It's like some French feminist who interviews other older French feminists, and they're like, "Yep, this is how I became a feminist. This is the group that I founded. This is the group that I was into. This is what I'm doing now." And it's just like really casual interviews of like your life as a feminist in French, which are nice. But it's like no drama, no like interpersonal YouTuber stuff. It's very wholesome. I think it's one of my like my second recommended channel on my. If you go on my YouTube channels, like recommended YouTube channels. Um, The Feminist Fellowship. That's what I'm gonna start calling my fans or the women who come to the chats. I don't know if you are actually fans. Like that feels a little bit like two dimensional. Um oh, Maple. Thank you, Maple. Via Merriam-Webster. Maple, get the fuck off my channel. Why would you bring Merriam-Webster definitions into here? I'm an OED devotee. The Oxford is the real definition. I'm joking. I'm joking. Okay. I mean, I'm not joking. I do have an issue with Merriam-Webster. Oxford is the right dictionary, but that's okay. Okay. So no, I know it's because Oxford is hard to find when you Google it, which is stupid. Definition of an enclave: a distinct territorial, cultural, or social unit enclosed within or as if within foreign territory. So the way that she yeah, shame on you, shame on your cow, shame on your family. Anybody else watch Mulan? All right. The way she defines enclave basically is like, so lesbians are like a minority within society, and that within that minority there are women who share beliefs and values beyond being lesbians, and that those women, that is an enclave. So it's like the minority within the minority based on their beliefs and values. Max Dashu? What do I know that name? Is she that British? No, that's isn't that a TRA? Who's that? Oh no. No, you're mentioning. Isn't that British, like kind of younger one? I have like a Hannah. I have like recommended channels. on my like YouTube channel. There's only like 5 of them. Feminist Claire is amazing. I love Feminist Claire. Lisa and Radical, obviously. Um, yeah. Izzy says another definition: a place or group that is different in character from those surrounding it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how I know the name. She's a bunch of her books are on my to read list. Okay. All right. Let's move on. No, but for real, Dragon, can you text me? I'll text you maybe. I want to know um who this YouTuber is who said like anti-indigenous stuff. So she has a big section of the essay where she basically talks about expectations versus reality, which is like if you expect to go into a lesbian space or lesbian community and to feel sameness, you might be disappointed. If you go into a lesbian community or space and you expect to be universally supported and only have positive interactions, you will probably be disappointed. Um, and so she's saying, I'm not saying that lesbian only spaces and stuff are bad or that we shouldn't have them, but I think we need to be realistic about it, I think is basically what she's saying. And we need to look at what's good about that, what's bad about that, and not to like be romanticizing it. Because if we view these lesbian only spaces, which are defined by whichever random psychological or social reasons, but not by like activism, for example, um, we have to basically recognize the limitations. I like exclusionary enclave of feminists. Yes, the EEF. No, no, I don't want you to quote her. I just want to know who she is. Because, like, honestly, I've written off, like, 99% of all of the women on YouTube who are, like, gender critical as, like, women who are women whose principles flip flop a lot and who have stabbed a lot of women in the back. And therefore, not somebody that I want to support, recommend, or be associated with. Okay. Oh, you did text me. Well, where's my phone? Oh, yeah, no, I already written her off as one, like, she said some really, really over the top anti black racist stuff. But good to know this also. All right. Turf Talk Down Under. I don't know what that is. Is that a channel? I will make a banner and then you can all put it in like your Getter or Twitter things. Oh, also, this is where I'm at with Getter. I basically find the whole thing pointless at this point. That was a weird phrase. Um, and the only reason I'm still on Getter is because multiple women have told me to get off and I'm contrarian. So I think I'll just leave it up. Maybe I'll delete the app though, but just leave my account there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Lita says I really hate Getter. Yeah. It's extremely chaotic and volatile and toxic. Um the only good thing about Getter is I think it's shown us the true colors of a lot of the women who are part of the YouTube commenter or YouTuber like GC community or whatever. Like there's a lot of women who I had bad vibes about them and some of the stuff they said I thought was pretty disrespectful on their YouTube channel. And then when I saw what they actually said on Getter, I was like, "Holy fuck. This woman is like elated at being misogynistic towards another other women like on a constant basis or like this woman is like euphoric over being racist to other women." And I'm like, so in a lot of ways I guess it showed us the true colors of a lot of these women. um yeah, anyway, let's get back to the book. I think we're a little more than halfway through the essay. Oh no, we only have 2 pages, 3 pages. I don't two, two, four. Yeah, we're like a little more than halfway. All right. So then there's some women uh in this book whose essays are very critical of this need for sameness or the desire for sameness or the value of sameness within lesbian circles. She is the first author in the book who I think has really articulated why is this bad and what is good, like what's the better alternative. The strength of our movement lies in our diversity and in the fact that that we are forced to recognize diversity. The power of feminism, its advantage over prior ideologies of liberation, is that it insists on the connections between types of oppression. Particularly as lesbian feminists, we must necessarily recognize the connectedness of our diversity in order to work together at all. We don't have the numbers to act any other way. We have learned that we cannot assert that sexism or racism or any single oppression is always the issue. We increasingly recognize that if we don't work in coalition across divides of ethnicity, race, and class, we will not have the power to change society. But this realization has brought us to an impasse. We have become so painfully aware of our diversity that we have fallen back on the bankrupt liberal view that we have to support whatever lesbians do because we're all oppressed together. I never believed that was true of Italians, and I don't believe it's true for lesbians. Like, so she's like, our power collectively is not in our similarities, it's in our differences. Hard agree. Then she says, but we can't, basically, she's saying we can't fetishize or objectify differences because that leads to identity politics, and identity politics is like the antithesis of political action. That's basically what I got out of that paragraph. And I totally fucking agree with that, and I love the way she articulated that. It was very, very instructive to me. I like that. Okay. Our problem is how we recognize our diversity and still feel enough connected to one another to work together over the long haul. Some have suggested that we don't need to feel connected, that if we recognize that our survival depends on each other, we will work together in coalitions because we must. But that can't be the whole story. Fear for our survival can motivate us to begin working together, but it cannot sustain us working together. We cannot be united merely externally by a common hatred and resistance of those who oppress us. Yeah, I totally. This is like such a feel, especially with like the modern day turf stuff. It's very, very strongly. I feel this. That's why you see all these women who they're very loud online. They go to a couple protests. They make a big deal. I'm an activist. 2, 3 years, nobody knows who they are. They just left because they were like, that's the enemy and I hate the enemy and like these women are my friends because we all hate the enemy. And I'm like, that is not like a personal politics. That is like I I hesitate to use this word, but the best word I can think of at the moment is reactionary. And that's not like it's not principled to be reactionary basically. And if your values are not like internally held and strong, they're not going to govern your actions in the long term. That was one thing about Getter too, though, was like, so all of my like GNC centric official stuff mostly has been taken down except for my YouTube channel and my Tumblr and my TikTok, which are like, aside from YouTube, those are kind of like bullshit social medias. um, so it was really like exhilarating for me to be like, I have an account with my name on it. People know that it's me who's saying these things. Um, but at the end of the day, like I feel like my YouTube is where I really express myself. So if I didn't have Getter, I wouldn't feel like a huge loss. But it was cool to have it. And also, like, at the beginning to talk about the stuff I was talking about, I've never been able to, like, publicly say that stuff, like, the stuff that I said on there that I would never say on YouTube because I don't want my channel taken down, so that was kinda nice. Cathartic, like you guys are saying. Alright. So, the 2 main barriers to long-term political engagement seem to be burnout and the development of a divisive anger aimed at each other as at our oppressors. This has been touched upon in some of the previous essays, that basically, if you feel powerless or fearful or frustrated, you will take your internalized self-hatred or internalized self-anxiety or whatever and externalize it at the other women around you because they are like accessible targets because they are like in the same paradigm as you. So you can't really express that, or will be like unsatisfying and frustrated to express that towards the dominant paradigm. But if you address that towards the other women in the same class as you, then you can get like something out of it, and it's like very unfortunate. And burnout. Um, that's what I was thinking when she mentioned burnout. I thought of the oh my god, what's the name of that freaking thing? Kombahi River Collective. There's there was this. It's mentioned. I've seen it mentioned a couple different times in lesbian history stuff. It was mentioned in the Eating Fire book. It was also mentioned in the Marilyn Fry, The Gay Revolution: The Story of the Struggle. Um, I think it's Kombahi. I think that's right. Kombahi River Collective. They were a black lesbian feminist collective. Like they lived together and worked together. Like it was like a real old school collective. And I read something. I don't remember where it was. Maybe it was a Tumblr post by some old school feminist. That was one of the reasons that women joined the Kombahi River Collective was specifically because of burnout. Um, I've also read a similar thing about, I think this is from Australia. There is some kind of old school lesbian collective in Australia. I think it's now very small. I think there's only 4 women left or something. And I read a similar thing from them, which was burnout and sustainability. Activism is very, very emotionally, physically, psychologically draining, right? Even community building, all those things as well. And so when you're in a collective with other women, this to me draws back to the essay because it almost is like a spiritual, like ritual type thing, and um like the obligation, the reciprocal obligation. Um, when you're feeling burnt out, depressed, frustrated, like you're feeling like what you're doing is pointless, or you're just like so freaking tired you can't do anything else anymore. When you're in a collective, one of the huge, like one of the mechanisms that collectives, in my, from what I understand, the way they were designed was specifically to combat that, to say, you know what, I can't do any activism right now. I can't do this for whatever reason. But I'm not going to feel guilty about it because you're still doing it and I'm going to support you while you do it in the background. So I'm still taking part. I'm still supporting you, but I'm not feeling guilty because someone else is doing the work. And that's the whole reason we're in the collective, so that I can take a break now because you're doing it and you can take a break later because I'll be doing it. And so like we have each other's backs in terms of like political actions. And to me that's like almost like a spiritualistic connection. Um because it's built on your like values, right? And your philosophy. It's not built on um just that you're lesbians, right? Um and I'm sure the way it was actually practiced was somewhat ritualistic, right? Like I mean, depending on your how broad your definition of ritualistic is, what I've just described to you could be a ritual. So when she mentioned that like spirituality in conjunction with burnout, that's what I thought about. Um all right. One of the major aims of most spiritual practice is the development of a sense of compassion for oneself as well as for others. So this to me lends itself perfectly to feminism, as she points out, which I like. Um, she mentions different forms of meditation, uh, and how they can be beneficial, and basically how if you have like a stronger sense of self and more peace within yourself, you can have more authentic bonds with other women and stronger bonds with other women. When I was reading this section, hey, listen to this. Wait, okay. Oh, and she also talks about how meditation is like a tool for embodiment. That I found so interesting. I loved this essay so much about how like your comfort in your own physical body is reflected in the way you like interact with other women and other lesbians. Where should I start this here? I'll just read this whole freaking paragraph. It's kind of long, but I love this. I love this section so much. Another politically valuable aspect of much, but not all lesbian spiritual practice is an insistence on coming to terms with our bodies. We are creatures of flesh. Our bodies can be a source of tremendous creativity and power, but they also bear the literal and symbolic scars of patriarchy, and we cannot feel connected to one another before we feel connected to ourselves. Each of us mirrors alienated hierarchy of patriarchy when we try to dominate our bodies. We devalue them. I also wonder what exactly she means by dominate our bodies. Like, it's so interesting to me. As women, as lesbians, we have good reasons to distrust our misused bodies and the signals they give us. But we will not know how to trust each other until we can reclaim trust in ourselves. Our attitudes toward and treatment of our bodies often reproduce the dynamics of patriarchal oppression and exploitation. Making these dynamics conscious can be a healing, politically liberating process. Reclaiming our physical selves requires that we learn how to de objectify our bodies, how to live in them in an integrated way. I am not referring to getting in shape or learning self defense or exploring sexuality. These can be important activities and may be part of the process I'm talking about, but they need not be. Regardless of size, shape, and physical condition or abilities, it is important for us to accept our existence as female animals and even to delight in it. When we value ourselves at such a primal level, our commitment to change the world deepens. I loved this. Hey, Cass. I might screw around with OBS tomorrow morning instead of tonight. I'm kind of tired. I mean, I've been streaming for like a while. 4 hours now. Aqua says, loving your woman body is totally radical. Very true. Maple is quoting Mary Oliver reads, um, you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. That's a very, like, wholesome way of looking at it. We're on the last page, guys. Well, like the last 2 pages. Overcoming bodily alienation is one aspect of developing this kind of power. As Starhawk says, power from within, quote, is not something we have, but something we do, end quote. We begin to heal ourselves and each other. We can recognize our connections and build a world that expresses them. I just think that's so powerful. It's something we have. It's not something we have, but something we do. Like, being yourself is not like an inactive thing, it's an action to be yourself. Um, I think from like a lesbian feminist perspective, that's very powerful. I really, really like that. She talks about the gains that can be acquired through group meditation. I think it's very interesting. Honestly, reading this essay makes me want to try a bunch of this crap, but I'm like, where am I gonna get women who want to all try this stuff together? Like, genuinely try it. We'll see. Um, like, I don't know. At the very least, I feel inspired to do private meditation, or like individual meditation. I haven't done it since I was like, actually, no, it wasn't that long ago. In high school, I did a lot of meditation because my mental health was very, very bad, and it did help a bit. Uh, in university a little bit, not as much, but listen to this. Practice in a group. Meditation is the most powerful tool I know of to enable people to disagree and still feel supportive of and connected to one another. The possibilities for its use in political groups are exciting and comforting. Then she mentions ritual quite briefly. The political importance of rituals lies in their ability to connect people. Rituals affirm the importance and values of the activities engaged in, as well as of the participants. Their usefulness is enhanced by versatility. They can be tailored to specific situations. And then she kind of like expands, basically being like, this doesn't mean you all need to like convert to a religion or something. You just need to like do it together, and you don't need to like be super strict about it. Okay, I'm gonna read the last paragraph. What's the difference between insight meditation and no mind meditation? Tossstone says menopause has been a very radical experience for me. Powerful stuff. Yeah, we should do a conversation about that. I need to get some like menopausal women on though to have that conversation. Um like the power of embodied female experiences. So like menstruation, childbirth, menopause are like the 3 big ones I can think of, like embodied female experiences. Um Okay, Maple, I've definitely done tons of insight meditation in an attempt to do no mind meditation. Okay, I'm going to read the last paragraph. Meditation and engaging in rituals together creates a communal sense, even among people who do not know one another. Through these techniques, we learn about, define, and redefine our limits. The more skillful we become at these practices, the more they will help us to know when we can and cannot work together. Talking to one another, even when we listen, is not enough to connect us. It leaves out too many aspects of the self. We lesbians are too diverse to work together always. Too much divides us. We have hard questions to ask each other about our differences. When we ask them out of fear, defensiveness, or vulnerability, when we do not ask questions but hurl charges of political incorrectness at each other, we help no one. We could use meditation and ritual to create environments in which it is safe to have dialogues about what divides us. Then, even when we disagree irreconcilably, we might prevent the enervating bitterness of our political feuds. For we have only this life, this world, and one another, and not much time. I don't even have anything to say. I freaking loved that. That was great. Lisa, you just got here. That was the last paragraph of the end of the book. I don't have much to say. I love the way she wraps it up. Oh, you know what? Maybe we should read the acknowledgments. Is there anything else left to read in here? So what's left in the back of the book? There's like all the bios of the authors, which I've written into the description of all of the videos. So I'm not going to bother to read them. Um, then there's like an index of all of the like references, which is quite long, understandably because most of the women who wrote for this are academics. And there's an acknowledgments that I definitely haven't read or written anywhere, so I'm going to read it now. The majority of the chapters in this book originated from a 3-day conference called Lesbian Psychologies that was held in Boston during March 1984. This conference was attended by more than 500 women and included 43 workshops as well as paper presentations and training sessions. Holy fuck, that's huge, man. That's huge. All right. It was the first conference of this scope to focus extensively on lesbian psychological concerns, probably one of the last, actually. I can't imagine this happening much into like the mid or late 90s. Both the conference and this book call for acknowledgments and words of appreciation. We would particularly like to thank the Boston chapter of the Association for Women in Psychology for sponsoring and supporting the conference. In particular, we wish to thank and recognize Sarah Pearlman, who first had the idea of such a conference, proposed it to the AWP, Association for Women in Psychology, and later coordinated the event and put it on with the help of many women who organized, worked on, and participated in the conference. I think Sarah Pearlman is like, she has one essay in here, and there's another essay that she like contributed to in here. She's one of the women who's in 2 of the essays in the book. We would also like to thank all of the women who submitted chapters for this book, as well as the authors of the chapters selected, who wrote, rewrote, and revised their original essays. The 9 women of our collective read, wrote, revised, edited, Xeroxed, stood in the post office lines, and struggled through the numerous meetings and tasks involved in the publishing of this anthology. Special thanks to Buffy Dunker, who held it all together. She's another one of the authors and part of the collective of editors. Finally, we should like to thank our editor, Carol Apple, for challenging traditional forms and working with us. I guess because there's stuff in here that's like written in verse, or that's like the structure of the essays are very non-traditional. Yeah, so that's the book. So I guess I've read 50 books this year now. Oh no, I've read a different book this morning. 51 books this year. I slept in so late. I woke up at 6:30. And I went to get my Tim's and I was like, I'm gonna read a book. I did consider briefly just like starting the stream at like 7 a.m., but I was like, only the Europeans will be here. I'm sure I'll become at least pescatarian again sometime in the future, and I'll tell you guys about it. All right. I'm going to let you guys go. I will see you tomorrow. So, hi, Hannah. I'm literally about to end the stream. I was thinking to mess around with OBS today, like the streaming software, because when I did it before, I couldn't get the audio to work or the live chat to work. It was like weird stuff was going on. So, I'm going to mess around with it in the morning, tomorrow, I think. And I think tomorrow at noon will be our first in the series of cotton sealing propaganda videos. Um, yes. So, yeah, that's the plan for now. Okay. If you would like to email me, please email me if you have any cotton sealing propaganda that is like specific to your region or your language or your culture. If it's like something that I can just put in Google Chrome and auto translate, good. If it's not, because you like speak some weird dialect or it's like whatever, then maybe you can translate it for me. But either way, just send me stuff. Just send me stuff. I'm gonna give you my email. Please send me any articles or whatever about like this whole thing of like we need to teach lesbians how to have sex with men. All right. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much for being here for the end of the book. Yep. Okay. Bye. Have a nice day, all of you guys. And also welcome. Okay. Update before I leave. Update to all the women. The women who partake in the community of this channel shall henceforth be known as the Exclusionary Enclave of Feminist Fellowship, EEFF or F. Yeah. So that's what you've officially been named. Because Ben Gines was kind of cool, but also it's like how many people are named Ben? So that wasn't great. This is much better. Also, I like it, just sounds kind of epic. Okay, okay, bye. See you guys. Wait. No, wait. One more thing. We have to say, Momo has to say bye. 1 second. Momo, purr at the camera. Okay, she is purring, but it's very quietly. I don't know if you can hear it. But this is her saying goodbye. And by that, I mean basically not moving and just sleeping. Okay. Bye, women. See you tomorrow.